What's going on, brothers and sisters? Chris here from Namaste Gaming, and today I'm going to go over my first impressions of the Blood and Madness patch and chat with you guys a bit about how Guild Wars 2 balance is different from other MMOs. Let's get to it. First off, the obvious stuff. We've got last year's Halloween content back, but strangely enough, almost everyone I've talked to about it is actually experiencing it for the first time. Turns out a lot of people were either taking a break or a vacation around this time last year. Just in case you're one of those people, you can get to the Mad King's Labyrinth by going through any of the square doors marked on the map in Gendarin Fields, Kessex Hills, or Queensdale. The labyrinth itself is mostly unchanged. A few bosses have been added, and the waves of enemies that spawn from the doors drop so many blues and greens that it's actually almost annoying. It's no Frost Gorge in terms of gold, but if you're looking to stockpile candy corn, this is your ticket. The Grand High Viscount of Candy Corn, that dude's a dick. Expect to spend half of that fight rezzing people, and if you're looking for a good time to dip out and sell stuff, that's not a bad fight to sit out. At least half the attacks don't telegraph in any sort of noticeable way, which baffles me, but I think by now we've established that ANET and I have differing opinions on what constitutes good PvE, so that's all I've got to say there. Just make sure to take this dude down at least once so you get the achievement. As far as the balance component of the patch goes, obviously we'll need to see how everything plays out, but in terms of my initial assessment, it's looking like the tweaks were fairly conservative. Based on what I've seen so far, it's not going to shake up the meta nearly as much as the last balance patch did, which is kind of a bit disappointing if I'm totally honest. I can't foresee numbers this tiny breaking World v World, which is good with the upcoming League stuff, but some of the changes were so small that they were hardly worth mentioning. In particular, Necros got the short end of the stick with their tweaks. The alleged buffs to the vampiric traits work out to a whopping 2 extra health gained per hit when fully traded. Neck Bros, please be aware, if you found the vampiric traits underwhelming before, not much has changed. So the forums are awash with tears, every profession wants something that another profession got, and everyone is convinced that ANET staff only plays warriors, except the warriors themselves, who seem to have come to a consensus that ANET only plays guardians. Right, so let's talk balance, roles, and why people are so upset over small changes, and try to kind of get some insight on how Guild Wars 2 is balanced. First off, let's clear up roles. Most MMOs go with the holy trinity of tank, healer, DPS, and in the current iteration of this model, most classes are capable of doing at least 2 of those things for the sake of player convenience. In that more traditional model, you know almost exactly what you're getting when you create a character. To put it plainly, things usually are what they appear to be at first glance. Now take the Guild Wars 2 approach. No trinity. Every class can technically do everything to some degree. Sure, there are some exceptions. Guardians don't do too well with condition builds. Warriors don't have a ton of evasion. Necromancers don't have a ton of options for mitigating damage, that kind of thing. For the most part though, every class can build towards a fairly broad range of specializations. To avoid every class feeling completely and totally homogeneous, the degree to which they can perform in each category varies from class to class. A thief can't stack conditions as fast as an engineer can, and an engineer doesn't have the evasiveness or mobility that a thief has, and neither of them can match the sustain or support of a guardian, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, this kind of system has a much greater difficulty managing expectations than the traditional model does. New players have no real in-game way of determining what class is best for their playstyle, and even experienced players have a hard time determining exactly which areas their class should excel in, and where they can acceptably fall a little bit short in the name of balance. So when a balance patch is announced and the developers proclaim that support builds will be getting love, it's pretty open to interpretation. If you happen to play a class that has a bit more support baked in by default, say Guardian or Elementalist or Mesmer, it's pretty easy to get the idea into your head that this new patch might just be Christmas coming a little early. So when the changes turn out to be conservative and the dreams of support viability that you had when you first rolled the class go down the tubes yet again, it's easy to understand where the disappointment comes from. What we as a player base need to understand is that balancing this type of class system is substantially more difficult than the traditional model, and that your chosen class's abilities are what they are. There's more responsibility on the player in this model. You need to know what your class is good at and where they're weak, and if you want a class with different strengths and weaknesses, make your way to the character creation screen and start up an alt that fits your needs better, my friend. It's so strange to me that in my whole time playing WoW, I never once saw someone try to make an argument that, say, rogues should be able to main heal a dungeon, yet in Guild Wars 2, I constantly see players of one class wanting the things that make another class distinct, without so much as suggesting that they should have to give something up in return for this. As someone who plays every class, let me just put this out there. Every class has areas where it outshines another class, and every class falls short in some areas. This game is, as far as MMOs go, fairly well balanced. Granted, it's asymmetrically balanced due to the fact that you can't exactly have a rock, paper, scissors system when rock can build to do almost paper's job without sacrificing what makes it rock in the process, as is the case with the more popular builds for each class right now. But asymmetry doesn't necessarily mean a lack of equality. Yes, there is some silly stuff, like thieves and engineers with full perplexity runes, but for the most part, if you actually understand your class and its strengths and weaknesses, balance in this game is pretty damn good. While I definitely would have liked to see a bit more aggression as far as legitimizing support builds across the board, there's nothing too mysterious or sinister about this balance patch, at least not from where I'm sitting. How about you guys? What are your impressions on the balance changes so far? How do you feel about your class and its versatility? Let's chat about it in the comments. That's all for now, folks. If you enjoyed it, let me know by hitting the like button, and if you're new around here, make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Much love to each and every one of you. Stay black.